our guest for today has an impressive career to his name. He is a graphic designer, he is a presentations expert, he is a Python app developer, which is interesting. He is a computer science teacher of an international school based here in Cebu. He is also the administrator of the school's management and information system and is the CTO, or the Chief Technology Officer of the said school. It is my honor to welcome Mikkel Yang, or who I dearly call him as Mick. Hi, Mick. How are you?
Hi, Earl. I'm good. Thank you for having me over.
Thank you so much for accepting this invite. So, first things first, looking back at your career, is this the career that you dreamed of while you were still young?
When I was still young, I always wanted to make an impact in education, but I always thought I'd end up as a teacher teaching math. I never thought that I would end up in the world of technology and helping other teachers get involved when it comes to effective technology use.
That's interesting. So, when did you start to develop your love for teaching?
I think when I was still in high school, I fell in love with the idea of tutoring my classmates. The
Oh,
fact that some of them started out with no knowledge, but after helping them out for a few sessions, they'd say that my tutorial to them was very helpful. So that inspired me. It gave me a sense of purpose that what I'm doing is impacting lives in other ways.
so when you developed that love for teaching when you were still in high school, you tutored your classmates. Did you already have this teaching style that you have in mind once you become a teacher by profession?
I've never had a fixed style through the years, but one thing I always told myself was I had to teach beyond knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the things that I always look forward to is even if sometimes the theory of what I'm teaching, the content of what I'm teaching may not be applicable in my students' lives in their adulthood, the skills they learn through the process of learning was something I focused more on rather than the end goal of learning the knowledge itself. So I revolved my teaching strategies around the idea of giving them skills to thrive in other situations rather than just transferring knowledge.
That says something for itself because I can see that you are a teacher who really goes beyond. And I actually like teachers that way. So once you realized that dream when you were still in high school and university came, did you decide to take a course that will allow you to teach by profession?
So, given the perspective I shared earlier, right, I didn't want to just teach knowledge. I thought I would end up as a math teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So, my perspective was I looked for a course that could help me teach applications of mathematics
Mm.
rather than to go into university with an education degree. So, I did not take an education degree. I took a degree in mechanical engineering with the perspective of how can I take the practicality of mathematics and physics, yeah, a bit of physics, in order to bring that to a classroom high school level where I can teach math in a very applicable way.
Wow, math and mechanical engineering. I actually admire you for that. So how was it taking the course?
It's enjoyable because I got to create certain outputs along the way that made me see that math is really applicable and there is really a style to teaching mathematics that does not have to be so theoretical.
Math must have been your first love ever since.
In terms of subjects, yes, I love math the most.
What's your favorite part of math?
I think when it comes to solving new problems, where I love the idea when you're taught a certain form of math, a problem is thrown at you and you're like, hey, what can I use to solve this? And you use those knowledge to solve math. So I think of math as more like a tool rather than a body of knowledge to learn. I think of it more like a tool that you can use in order to solve problems.
I love that mindset. If that is used as a tool, that can be developed and it actually forms a skill. And that's a skill that you need to learn in life. Every step you go take in life, you will always encounter problems. And it's not just only math problems, there are other problems that you encounter as well. And you will need to have that skill that can go a long way in navigating through life. So that's a good thing you pointed out there, Mick. Now, this is the catch here. You've studied mechanical engineering, and ideally, once you finish the course, you take the board exam. But then you also have the line of wanting to pursue a career in teaching. How did you go about with these two?
That just happened for me. After I graduated, I wanted to start earning while reviewing the boards. So I found the school that I am working in now, applied, I got the job, and I liked it so much. And I was able to see some progression that I can have in my career there, that I
Mhm.
decided that I did not need a board exam in order to proceed and succeed in the career path that I saw available to me at that point in time. So I decided that I wouldn't take the mechanical engineering board the moment that I saw the potential of the work environment that I found myself in.
At the end of the day, you're just being brought back to what you truly love, which is teaching.
Yes.
So now that you have started as a teacher by profession from then on, how is it going so far? Do you love the role itself of teaching in a classroom setting?
Yeah, I love the role.
So every day that you wake up, I'm sure that you are excited to go each day teaching students. Is that really the case, or how do you go with it for every single class you handle?
It's not as dreamy as you put it out to be.
Okay.
You're not motivated every day. I think, in a sense, that's where teaching is similar to other jobs where it gets a bit systematic, mundane at times.
Okay.
So it's really about owning up your responsibility and make sure you're taking intentional steps to grow and intentional steps to find joy and create meaning for my students.
So I know there are times that you feel demotivated. How do you motivate yourself to get the heart of teaching despite the mundane, systematic process you have there?
I think my blunt answer to that is I don't believe in motivation.
Okay.
I believe in responsibility. And
Okay.
I said yes to this responsibility and I will do it to the best of my capacity, whether I feel like doing it or not.
Okay.
So I don't try to motivate myself. I don't tell myself I'll do it if I'm motivated. I just tell myself that I said yes to this, I committed to this, I'll do it.
So for you, what differs motivation to responsibility?
I say that in a sense that there's a lot of talk that goes around where people say that you have to wait till you're motivated to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't believe that to be the case in my life. The highest amount of growth and the highest amount of fulfillment that I found in my career is when I feel unmotivated but still decide to do what I have to do.
I think that's a fine line there. So, what are the challenges that you face as a teacher?
I think the biggest challenge is always one, making sure you're a master of your content. Just because you feel like you're the expert does not give me the right to stop learning about the field that I'm teaching.
Right.
So I make sure that's something that I continually improve on, the mastery of my content. And
Mhm.
the second thing is adjusting to every cohort, every grade. So as you can imagine, students come in and out of your class, you're not with them forever. So as the years progress, as you get different sets of students, you do have to adjust to their personalities, their learning styles, in order to maximize what they can get from your class.
Apart from those challenges, what are your wins so far in teaching?
I think the win is when they learn the content and you see them grow in their skill and their capacity. You see them working harder. You see them pushing boundaries, doing things that they felt like they couldn't do before, but they're suddenly doing. That gives you the joy seeing how they're progressing.
Simple as that. So that's a good one there, Nick. Now, you mentioned that you never imagined yourself to be in the world of technology. So, coming from a person who loves math and then now as a teacher, and then you're now suddenly in the world of technology, how did that come out?
I never actually became a math teacher, just to be clear. When I
Oh,
applied
really?
in the school, all the math teacher slots were filled. They
Okay.
said, but we have a slot for a computer teacher. And that's how the journey started.
This must have been a new world for you. So you had to study all you needed and make sure that you teach what is needed to educate your students, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So eventually you went into technology. And what is so far the most fascinating thing that you found about technology?
I think what made me so fascinated about technology is not everybody is adept at using it at the level that I found myself naturally inclined to.
Mm-mm.
So I enjoy nitpicking on certain features.
Mm.
I'm the type of person who opens Microsoft Word or any application and want to find out what each button does.
Mm-hmm.
And from that curiosity, I developed what I used to think is a natural way of using technology, just
Mhm.
to find out not everybody has that same level of patience when
Mm.
it comes to technology.
So from there, you have expanded yourself into different roles that actually defined your careers. You actually became a Python app developer because this is actually a role of a programmer, and you found yourself programming. So I'm pretty sure you must enjoy programming in the sense because it feels like you are in the IT industry, even though by profession you're an educator.
Yeah, that's correct. I am both a IT leader
Yeah.
and a teacher, and I somehow just found the balance between the two.
Wow.
There is an overlap with math and programming. I think you yourself would know the logic is similar. So the mindset needed to solve problems in both programming and math is quite similar. Though it is a new set of technical knowledge, I don't believe the skills needed for both fields is that far apart.
Well, that actually makes sense. So it wouldn't be a surprise why you would be involved to that. I think it just goes to show that you're just adaptable to learning, flexible to learning, which actually broaden your horizons to what you can be. And it actually makes wonders because of your fascination for technology. You administer your school's management and information system, which is up to another level, and then you leveled up to be a chief technology officer. So the catch here is this: I get to hear a chief technology officer when it's a company, but this time it's a chief technology officer in a school. So, how does a CTO or a chief technology officer go about with what he needs to do in school?
I think this is one of the things that's not common knowledge to all, but there's really a huge field when it comes to edtech,
Mhm.
education technology. And I
Mhm.
believe that's the true for almost any field, right? There's fintech, there's healthcare technology, so it's expanding everywhere. My role really is focused on finding out which technologies can be applied and creating strategies and systems, getting people involved in order to make technology easier to use in the school. One of the things that is always a tagline for me when it comes to what I tell, what the purpose is of my department is we have the tagline of saying we want to simplify systems to empower lives. So what that essentially means in a school context is we have to understand that a teacher's time is limited.
Mm.
And the more that we have them do outside of just teaching and caring for students, the less time, right, they have for that.
Right.
So the idea that we have in our technology, when I manage my team in the IT department, is let's try to let technology do as much as it can for the teachers so the teachers can do what the technology can't. We call those high touch activities. Like technology can't care for our students, can't motivate, can't guide them when the students don't know where to go. So we make sure that the technologies we implement make more time available for the teachers, to say that again, so that technology can do what it can, so that teachers can do what technology can't.
It's remarkable. Being a CTO is not easy because it takes time and your effort to know all these technologies, take a thorough study of them, and be able to discern the best technology that you can use for your needs. I commend you that for so much, Mick, for putting up the good effort on that. Now, so far with your experience in the field of technology and teaching and seeing technology that is happening right now and the developments that come with it right now, like AI and sorts, there will come in time that the next generation of students will also be exposed to these kinds of technologies. Do you have any visions that you have in mind in terms of how to educate students in utilizing the technologies in the future?
Well, our stand is always we tell them about the technologies. Even if they don't know about it, we expose them and tell them how to use it.
So it all goes from there. Now that we've talked about your experience, so throughout your career, what are the most important lessons you learned so far?
I think my most important lessons is always just keep growing, keep learning. Very true for technology, where things are developing quite rapidly. As you mentioned, AI, there is a lot of development where if you don't try to keep up, you will fall
Mhm.
back quickly. The second lesson I have is I've always been transparent with my dreams and my mistakes. My boss knows this, and I'm confident to say it in public. I have never hidden any mistake from her, whether it's, I would actually say, like unintended data breaches, though it's not as big as you hear in the news, but it's still unintended data that reached the wrong hands, whether it's compromised security in some areas that I did
Mhm,
not realize,
mhm.
whether it's people that I felt like I've mismanaged. I've always been transparent with that. And that has always been a learning experience for me. And I feel happy that I've never needed to hide anything from the people I've worked with. So for me, I think those are the two. Always keep growing and just being authentic when it comes to your dreams and when it comes to your mistakes.
I admire your honesty, your bravery, and your authenticity in that mix. It's not the type where you just have to show yourself to impress other people because we are human. We all have our flaws and imperfections. And through those imperfections, they serve you as a stepping stone if we learn something from it. And it's evident that you can be who you are despite your flaws and your imperfections because that makes you you as long as you are a person who continues to learn. I actually like both of those lessons, Mick. That's actually core for me as well. Those were the lessons I also learned in my career. And it also applies to any career. What makes you stand out as an educator?
I think what makes working where I work stand out is that we're never self reliant. I don't think there's one specific characteristic that makes me stand out, but the capacity and impact that I have in my school comes from the fact that I am working with a good team
Mm-hmm,
where I never felt like there's competition where somebody's trying to drag me down.
mm-hmm.
Nobody there is my enemy. So I'd like to say if there's some place that I want to give credit in terms of the impact of my work, I would say it comes to the culture of the school that I work at.
Culture actually gives a big factor. What do you envision more as an educator in the next few years?
I want to impact more schools. And this is something that I have also told my president, and she's open to the idea of finding ways to empower other schools to maximize technology in order for the same impact to be felt by other schools. So that's a dream, and we're now going through the process of how do we package that so that we can impact other schools to maximize technology in order to maximize learning.
I love that. And I'm looking forward with you working on that for the next few years. So, what is your advice for those who aspire to become educators?
I think my biggest advice is there really needs to be a shift when it comes to how we educate students nowadays. We have to get away from a very knowledge centered approach to teaching
Mhm.
because there used to be a time where what you know in your head is what makes you valuable.
Right.
But with the rise of search engines and now especially with the rise of generative AI, it becomes more apparent that it's not about how much you know, but it becomes more about do you have the skills in order to translate knowledge to something tangible, something
Mhm,
that has an output.
mhm.
For me, that is something that we need to teach our students early in order for them to have a bigger impact where they are the moment they reach the workforce.
I agree with you on that, Mick. I love that kind of mindset because I can imagine that if all of us are being wired to that, I can imagine how the individual is being impacted by it, how the workforce is being impacted, and to add on a larger scale, how the society is being impacted. So I can say it surely makes a big difference. That's actually a good point right there, Mick. So, just to wrap this up, what wakes you up early in the morning?
My responsibility. My philosophy when it comes to that is I always make sure that one, I live my life in such a way where I choose what I'm responsible for.
Mm-hmm.
And though this is not 100%, of course, right? There's some things you have no choice of, but 80 to 90% of the things I'm responsible for, I choose that. And I make sure that those responsibilities I choose have meaning.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing is, aside from choosing my responsibilities, I try to make a system where I don't have to always think about my next decisions. Like example, waking up to do next, do I go to work or not? My mindset is always I'm responsible for what I said yes to. So it's
Mhm.
not even a thought for me. I have never called in sick even though I was not because I wanted to ditch work. And
Mhm.
that's because I chose to involve myself in an area of education that I find so meaningful. And it's that meaning that keeps me going. And I make sure that I can verify, right? I can assess that meaning. And how I do that, and what's beautiful about the school is we operate in cycles in school years. So at the end of the year, students get promoted. Some students in their last year leave the school. So hearing their words as they leave, hearing their words as to how they're transformed and the things they have learned are signs for me, telltale signs that I am in the path that I want to be.
Very well said, Mick. So I'm rooting you for your continuous career as an educator. So again, thank you very much, Mick, for your time today.
You're welcome, Earl, and thank you again for having me over.